is our writing librarian down in Georgia. He's fantastic. He'll be talking about how to make a poster. And I will be talking about the submission process for Research Day. If you've submitted to Research Day in previous years, it's a little bit different this year. So I just wanted to have a presentation going over the differences and just a quick overview of the submission process. So let me start by presenting this tab. All right. So everything I talk about is going to be on the Research Day LibGuide, and I will post this in the chat. And a link to this will be you've been emailed submission instructions, and also on the library homepage you can just go to the, let me go back here, under PCOM library, go to menu, guides, all guides, and then Research Day will be on here. So if you haven't submitted to Research Day before, it is for all sorts of research conducted at PCOM or by PCOM students, faculty, staff, residents, etc. And the one thing you have to know before presenting is that unless you are a faculty member or a staff member, you will have a primary investigator who is not you. That'll be the faculty member leading your lab. If you're doing this while on rotation or at a hospital, it'll be the presiding physician or resident, basically who is in charge and who is focusing this research. And your principal investigator will have to give permission for you to present on Research Day. All right, so if you go here on the left-hand side, you could see the submission guidelines and FAQs. And this is going to go over everything you do when submitting. And then down here, there is the 2023 submission form. So this works a lot like previous submission forms. It's just, you're just going to fill out all the information we need. A few important things. When you list your poster authors, they must include both you and your PI. If there's some weird thing going on where your PI, where you don't think your PI should be an author, please email me, but they're probably going to be an author. And you want to include all your authors on here, one in each line. And something different from previous years is that we have a Word template for you to put your abstract in. This year, we are limiting abstracts to 500 words. Do not go over 500 words, or we will be rejecting abstracts. You can still resubmit abstracts if they've been rejected, but if you're doing it on the very last day of submission and don't quite get it in, that can be an issue. So please submit early and please follow the directions. All right, now let me stop sharing so I can show you what the form looks like. All right, so the abstract form is going to be a Word template. What that means is that you can only type within these little yellow brackets here. So title, author, and then here's the area for your abstract. And you can put whatever you want in here. Just make sure you type between the brackets. You can also format it, bold sections, italicized words, etc. And If you select everything that's in the abstract here, you see down here, right where it says page 1 of 1, a little hard to see, but it says 32 of 98 words. So that will tell you how many words the selected portion is. If it's less than 500, you're good. The other thing that we might reject for, well, also if you don't use this template, but when you put your authors, you do not include your PI or faculty advisor. All right, so let's get out of the template and back to the submission form. Where'd you go? There you are. All right, so once you download this template, you just have to save it, upload it in here, keywords, principal investigator, and some more information on your poster. The last thing is that that you might not know about is that you'll also give permission or not to include your poster or abstract on the digital commons at PCOM. There's more information on the page, but that is basically your work will be freely available for anyone to see, and it could be your abstract or your full poster. It can also be under an embargo, aka it won't show up until a year has passed. Your principal investigator will also have to give permission for this. So if they don't want work from their lab going up, if you're trying to publish, then anything you select for whether or not it will be on the digital commons has nothing to do with whether or not you'll be able to present it in person or win an award. You could also present posters that have already been presented at a meeting, as long as it's within the past year. And last thing, this is not a poster printing request. So to get your poster printed, PCOM will do that for free. The guidelines are different depending on campus, but if you click on the submission guidelines and FAQs, go down to the poster guideline FAQs, and this tells you how to submit a poster request form, different for student and faculty and staff. And marketing will be releasing their guidelines on how soon you have to have your poster printed. But basically, you do not need your poster done to be able to submit to Research Day. For now, you only need your abstract, and that needs to be submitted by March 10th. And then your poster, it has to be done basically as soon as it, as long as they need to print it before the actual Research Day. If it's already printed for another conference, you're good. Besides that, yeah, it just needs to be done by the day you're actually presenting it. All right, and for faculty and staff, anyone who's going to be a PI, there's going to be a slight difference from last year in that you'll get an email from Smartsheet, which is where our submission form is. And that will say, hey, your student has listed you as a faculty advisor for this abstract. Is this right? Then you'll be able to download the abstract, glance over it, make sure everything's okay, and then say, okay, I give them permission. After that, you'll get another email saying, do you give permission to put this in the digital commons? And like I said, whether or not you give permission has nothing to do with whether or not they'll be able to actually present on Research Day, put it on their CV, and so on. All right. Are there any questions here? Yes, Curtis.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. The question I had regarding the PI, if it is somebody from outside PCOM, it's still the same exact process as everything you just presented, correct?
Yes, excellent question. Yep, same thing. You will still need a PI. If they're outside of PCOM, then just list them as usual. Make sure they know that you're presenting and give them a heads up. They'll be getting an email and they need to reply to this and okay your submission.
Great, thank you. Then the only other thing I haven't looked at the frequently asked questions yet, so this might be on there, but when printing the poster, if my poster doesn't have the PCOM logo, it has the other institution's logo, they will still print that, is that correct?
I believe so. Marketing tends to have, we'll double check with marketing. Sometimes there are, the rules change from year to year, but as for the actual presentation, it'll be completely fine. Like especially if you have an already printed poster with another organization on it, then you can present that with no issue. All right. Any more questions before I pass it on to Kevin? Okay. Oh, yes. One last thing before I pass it on. Unlike past years, we are actually going to close submissions when we say we're going to close submissions. So in the past, we've given like a week of grace time, and surprise, we've extended the submission dates. But we are hopefully not doing that this year. So please submit your abstract as early as you can. That way, if there are any issues, you have time to fix them. And if you run into real problems, you get COVID and hit by a car on the same day you were going to submit, then just shoot me an email. We'll try to help you out if we can, but we're on a pretty tight deadline to get everything together. So we're just really trying to actually keep to the deadlines this year. All right. Kevin, would you like to explain how to make a good poster?
I certainly will, and thank you very much, Jackie. I think, in light of the fact that we are tightening up the process a bit, particularly on the abstract word count, that's certainly a common struggle, is when you get writing, especially on a topic that you're passionate about, you find that you write and before you know it, you're over the word limit. So I am here to help you with that. My presentation should probably be somewhere in the realm of 20 minutes or so. We have an hour slated for this, but we'll be finished well before the hour is out, for those of you who want to catch a bite to eat. So without further ado, I'm Kevin Bradford, the Research and Writing Support Librarian here at PCOM. Think of me as your writing guru, however. So I would strongly encourage you, particularly in light, as Jackie has said, the new word restriction on your abstracts. I would encourage you to reach out to me if you're struggling with that, since that's what I'm here for. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you. I have about 6 slides, so like I say, we'll go through this fairly quickly. And then I have a couple of links to show you for additional help. So one moment, and I'll screen share here. Okay, you all should see a PowerPoint momentarily. All right, so tips and tricks on writing your abstract with a view toward Research Day at PCOM 2023. So in order to write an effective abstract, there are certain basic ground rules that you'll want to follow. The 500-word limit will fit into probably maybe more like 5 paragraphs, but don't try to push it at the outset. Ideally, you want to keep to 4 paragraphs. That should be enough if you've written effectively to cover your abstract while staying within the word limit. A couple of main pointers is you want to aim toward coherency, both with your grammar and your ideas. I find in reviewing student work that one of the common problems, next to subject-verb agreement, grammatically, that's one of the most common struggles, is a tendency to go toward wordiness. And I think part of this is maybe a subconscious mindset from having to do a lot of papers in your college career. You tend to try to want to pad or fill them, but you're at a point in your college career where if you're attempting to do that, that's caught pretty quickly. So coherency is something you want to aim for. And there is a LibGuide that will help you with these tips. And I've got a link there. It's LibGuides, a writing LibGuide. So concision also is there's some pointers on the LibGuide for how to actually do that as well. So your abstract, in addition to brevity, will also want to follow the chronology of the report or experiment that you're presenting. So you also want to provide logical connections between your material. In the writing realm, we call this transitions, and the transitions will typically be from one paragraph to the next. You typically are going to end with your new idea or your thesis, and your next paragraph will begin with the new idea and expand upon that, et cetera, so forth. An abstract is not a time for an aha moment, to be flashy or to reveal anything more than what is contained in your report or study. An abstract is effectively an organized, formalized summary of the ideas that are within your paper, and it contains nothing more than that. If you've got any questions, if you could hold them to the end, that would be appreciated, since we're recording this, and it'll be a little smoother in terms of a recording if we hold on our questions. So thank you in advance for that. Okay, many of you will be presenting posters of what are typically standard scientific experiments. And how these are organized. This convention, this IMRAD convention, began to be de rigueur in the scientific community probably sometime in the 1990s or so. And so pretty much all of your published research papers will follow this format. So this is what you're going to have in your abstract, essentially. You're going to have an abbreviated version in an IMRAD format. So IMRAD stands for Introduction or Objectives, Methods or Procedures, Results or Findings, and then a discussion in the conclusion section. Your paper may or poster may or may not follow this rigid order per se. You may have a discussion within your results section, for instance. That's what the variations commonly will occur is that those last two, the R and the D part of IMRAD, will often be wrapped together in the same section. And then you'll want to have your own unique subdivisions and subsections as well, depending upon the nature and the extent of your experiment. So in a structured abstract, Jackie has already given you the fair warning. Over 500 words, your abstract will be rejected. And simply, the reason for this is not to be, a doomsdayer or be difficult. That's one of the most common problems that the research day folks who are managing this program have to deal with is many abstracts were extensive. I've read a number of them that were 2 single-space pages long, which is simply beyond the ability within the context that we have here of being able to integrate that. So ideally, you want to hit for under that 300 to 350 words. is going to be somewhere around 3 to 4 or so paragraphs, but you do the math. The basic breakdown I've got here below, the introduction and objective section should be right around 15% of your total abstract. Your methods and procedures, you're obviously going to want to, expound that a bit. So that's going to be about double the size, double the material of your intro. Your results and your findings you're going to have a little bit more to say about that in terms of your reactions to and your impressions of how the methods and procedures in your paper went or your experiment went. And then the discussion and conclusion section, which is essentially a formalized kind of a summary, if you will. That's going to be a little bit smaller than the meat of your paper or your abstract, which is going to be, again, your methods and your results sections. So for the steps in the abstracting process, I think if you follow this formula, that'll stand you in good stead and make the writing process a lot easier. Start, of course, with a rough draft. Leave a lot of white space. If you're like me, I don't tend to draft in paper anymore. I usually use, Microsoft Word or Google Documents to write even a draft. Paper I've kind of like left behind me. But whatever, if you're writing paper or online, leave a lot of white space between your ideas. That way you can go in and add more, change things around without having to scratch and write over and write in crabby handwriting over your draft. This will definitely help that white space. So consider the main parts of the abstract as you're writing, which is going to be essentially the problem or the experiment. You'll explain the inclusion criteria if you're running a standard experiment. Talk about the participants, the studies, talk about the numbers, the extent and composition of your patient groups or your study population groups. Provide your main results, and then describe any conclusions or implications from the experiment or the study that you did. You want to include both your expected results as well as, and perhaps more importantly, any unexpected results, because there's learning in revelatory sorts of discoveries. So if it went right, that's great. If there's something that went a little bit awry, that's also important for you to indicate. Again, to reiterate, make sure you're saying the same thing in the abstract that you've said in your paper. An abstract is not a place for some additional surprise revelatory statements. Again, as in common sense, revise your rough draft once you've gone through it one time. Correct weaknesses in the organization and coherence. PCOM has purchased a wonderful tool for writing, and that's Grammarly, and it's free to the PCOM community. I have a link in the LibGuide for that. You want to set up your own account to take full advantage of all of the features of Grammarly, but this will definitely assist you. You can set Grammarly for various sorts of tones, but since this is a formal writing project for you, you'll certainly want to set it for a formal academic audience. Grammarly will also help you eliminate wordiness, as well as, of course, those grammatical errors which creep in upon us all, experienced writers or novice. In the abstract, as is common and expected in scientific papers and posters and materials, don't use abbreviations or contractions. You can use acronyms, but you'll want to spell out the first instance, spell out fully and write in the full words of the acronym. And then in parentheses, the acronym thereafter, you can just use the acronym alone. Abstracts are not the place for citing references. No citations in an abstract. Don't include any unnecessary background information. Don't fill it with fluff. Don't fill it with your flowery introductory sorts of language. You also don't include or make reference to any visuals that would happen to be in your paper/poster. For your convenience, again, I have the Grammarly app mentioned with the URL link. Okay, that's kind of, I finished actually well ahead of schedule here. A couple of links. The LibGuide, the Research Week FAQs. If you bookmarked it and you're using the same device that you used last year, and you were a submitter for Research Day 2022, the link is the same. So if you've bookmarked it, it should still work, but nonetheless, there also is a LibGuide link for that as well. And then additionally, fresh off the press, from our education librarian, Megan Dorito. She has created a LibGuide for you on scientific presentations, which includes, among a number of elements, some material on wordiness, how to write concisely. And in addition, I'm not a graphic artist. I'm a wordsmith guy, not a graphic person. But there's an excellent section in Ms. Dorito's LibGuide that gives you information on how you should visually draft, how you should visually create your presentation. And it's research poster link that I have there for your convenience. And so that's the skinny of it. Probably one of my briefer presentations in my career here. Nonetheless, I hope it was useful. And I'm going to open up now to any questions you guys might have. Go ahead and open your mic, Curtis, if you would.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for the presentation. Just wanted to know if you'd be sharing the PowerPoint with us.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
So I just wanted to ask if you'd be sharing the PowerPoint that you just presented so we could get to those links.
This will be in the recording, so yes,
Thank you.
it will be available.
And where will the recording be posted?
Jackie, if you're still there.
On the library YouTube channel, which I will grab a link right now.
Great, thank you.
James, this is Barbara from the library. It takes about 24 to 48 hours for it to show up on the YouTube channel, the recording.
Thank you.
Again, I would like to add and reiterate for what I've already said. Since it's getting a little bit tighter in terms of the requirements and the restrictions, I think it's more important than ever that if you've got any struggles with your abstract and your writing, to please reach out to me. There's not so many of you that I can't handle helping all of you. So come one, come all. Any other questions? What are the hours of Research Day on the Philly campus, Jackie?
That is, that's a good question. It's usually, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 hours, but 12 to 1 is for all campuses. 12 to 1 will be our keynote speaker. And then after that, it is, depending on the number of presenters, we may have 2 separate cohorts where you're at your poster for an hour. But yes, generally you're going to look at like 1 to 3. You'll want to either be at your poster and looking at everyone else's posters. And in previous years, we've also had everyone set up their posters earlier in the morning so that judges could do a pre-judging round, or you could just take a look at posters before anyone's actually standing there and have time to read them because there's a lot. But we'll be sending out more information as it gets closer to Research Day.
Anybody else? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Oh, here's a question from Kara. We are presenting. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. If we are presenting a poster with a research project that is currently in progress but will be completed before research day, how do you recommend approaching the results and discussion portion of the abstract for submission by March 10th? So very good question. We've already had one person asking this before this presentation. If the results will not be done, are not done by the time you do the abstract, you can just put basically to be determined for the results and discussion parts. Keep in mind that when you finish your abstract, you'll also want it to be under 500 words. So don't like make your introduction 400 words in that part. But yes, in previous years, we've had several presentations where data collection is not complete by the time you present it. So you can definitely submit it with just TBD.
Sarah asked a question and Kate answered that. I don't see anybody else in the in-call.
Yeah, and we do have some templates on my PCOM. For students, I believe it is under, I believe it's on the research tab. But if you go on my PCOM and search for marketing or posters, and you'll be able to find whatever marketing has up there.
Well, good luck, everyone.
Yes, thank you all.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye.